Yes, another week, another 7 painful days of challenges and eye-rolling and lamenting, how could he, over and over. But lamenting, though sometimes satisfying in the moment, doesn't really get us anywhere. Doing the next right thing, that has a lot more going for it. So in this episode of Faithful Resistance, we're talking to a leader of one of the most prominent immigrant justice organizations in Colorado, the American Friends Service Committee. Jordan Garcia is the Immigrant Ally Organizing Director for Coloradans for Immigrant Rights, one of AFSC's major projects. Let's get right to it. So welcome, Jordan. We're so glad to see you here from the American Friends Service Committee, and there are many other names and acronyms that can go after AFSC. We're glad you could take a few minutes to talk to us, and I want to start with having you describe the current climate for immigrants in Colorado.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here with you all. Yeah, the current climate. So I guess what I would say is kind of two big things. One is that certainly there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, and that is troubling. And that is, I think, upsetting for folks who have enjoyed a little bit of comfort for the last few years. And also, I would say I'm seeing a great deal of incredible people coming out of the woodwork who really, really want to support immigrants, who really, really want to do their very best to say, no, these are people who are members of my community and I care about what happens to them. And I'm gonna tell them so. A quick example is I had one of my members said, gosh, I have a Venezuelan family who's renting a house just across the street and down the block a little bit. And I want to be able to say to them, hey, if you get scared about anything or you feel like you need support around something, I'm a safe person for you to come to talk to. And he was kind of like, how do I do that? And I said, I think the way that you just said that is speaks volumes.
Oh,
So.
that's a lovely story, and I think it touches on what a lot of us struggle with. We know the situation is more frightening now than it's been in a long time, and we want to be allies, but we don't always know how to be allies.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of levels, right? So there's one is maybe something like that bystander intervention. So if you see something that doesn't sit right with you, if you see a cashier or somebody being rude to somebody in line, you can say something. What we usually recommend is you say something to the person who's being targeted as opposed to the person who's doing the targeting. We really recommend saying, like, if I want to be a bystander who intervenes, I want to touch base with the person who's kind of being targeted. So that's one thing. And then I do think that there are opportunities for us, people such as myself who have citizenship privilege and do want to be allies to the immigrant community. There's the Colorado Rapid Response Network is a really amazing network that checks out and verifies ICE activity and then shares facts back with the community. So a lot of things that are contributing to the fear that's in community right now are rumors. So rumors about ICE being on at this apartment complex or at this Home Depot. And as a US citizen, I have the ability to go and talk to an officer at a Home Depot and say, what are you doing here? Can you tell me more about what's happening? And then I can give accurate information back to my community about what is really happening.
I know on our website we have a way to, is it called CORN? What's the acronym for it? Yeah. There's a way for us to join that. What training is there for that? Because you don't want to make more trouble than being quiet, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. So the Colorado Rapid Response Network has several different kinds of trainings, but one is for legal observers and another is for confirmers or verifiers, people who kind of go out and get the facts. And then if folks are bilingual, you may have listeners who are bilingual. We also have dispatchers who communicate to the community, what their rights are and how to support themselves.
Okay. I read on your website of AFSC and of Coloradans for Immigrant Rights that you're working with allies and immigrants, and it sounds like a unique partnership. Tell me about how that works and not how it's supposed to work, but how it is working.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have two programs that we kind of run kind of parallel next to each other. One is the Not One More Deportation Table. And those are all folks who are immigrant leaders who are fighting their deportation or fighting the deportation of a loved one. So they may have someone who's in the detention center, or they may have someone who was deported or is in deportation proceedings. And those leaders are incredible. They just they do all kinds of incredible work. They are doing Know Your Rights trainings for their community right now. They're just amazing. And we also have another group that's called Coloradans for Immigrant Rights, and it is mostly actually retired folks who are U.S. citizens who are trying to use their privilege for good and not evil. So I believe it is Spider-Man that says, with great power comes great responsibility. And so this is a group of people who write letters to the editor, who hold educational events in their faith communities. And we also meet with congresspeople and state legislators. And every time we meet with congresspeople and state legislatures, we make sure that we are going together with the members of the Not One More table. So the U.S. citizens, we never speak on behalf of immigrants, because immigrants are perfectly capable of speaking on behalf of themselves, but we always make sure that we go together and that we can lift up the voices of the people who are often silenced.
So how does a person become officially part of these efforts?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Our Coloradans for Immigrant Rights meetings are every first and third Tuesdays at 4 o'clock, and I can send anyone the invite who's interested in being there. And there are also other campaigns that people can get involved with. There's also immigrant protection teams and bystander intervention training and court accompaniment. We have lots of opportunities. Court accompaniment, I think, is worth landing on for a moment. It's just a really great opportunity for people, especially people who don't, who are retired and who don't have a fixed schedule during the day. Court is almost always, 8:30 in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's a great opportunity for someone to sit with someone and be like, I'm here, I've got your back, and I'm happy to make sure that this court appointment goes smoothly for you.
You're smiling. What keeps you enthusiastic about this work? And I don't know, is it too much to say hopeful about this work?
I think there are times that I'm hopeful. And the times that I'm hopeful is when I get to talk to people like Dana Miller or like you, Chris, and I'm just like, oh, people who really want to see things change for the better. And that is hopeful for me, for sure. And I think the thing that probably keeps me up at night certainly is, also the fear and the continued onslaught from the Trump administration. But I am hopeful because people are coming out of the woodwork saying we want to build a better world.
Well, we hope that there are people out of the woodwork who are watching this podcast who will step up too. We do. And we could talk much longer, but I know you have really limited time. So thanks for joining us today to give us an idea of what AFSC and CFIR is doing, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So we'll move right on to opportunities for action. The big one this week, Saturday, April 19th, another hands-off protest. It's on the west steps of the state capitol at noon. And there are other hands-off and No Kings rallies all across the state. I've seen them mentioned in Arvada, Lone Tree, Greeley, Berthoud, on the western slope. They're all over, all on Saturday the 19th. Then Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m., a vigil again outside the GO ICE Detention Center in Aurora. Vigils will be held every Monday night there until immigrant rights activist Jeanette Vizquera is released. If you have ideas for events or for interviews, please email us at faithfulresistance@jeffersonunitarian.org. And if you like these interviews and ideas of opportunities for action, please, we ask you to share this podcast and also to subscribe. You might also consider joining the UUSC Resistance Network. UUSC stands for Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, It has been doing justice work since 1939, when it began by helping refugees escape Nazi persecution in Europe. In starting this new resistance network, this is one of the things that the UUSC says. Complying with injustice is an unacceptable choice. Our values call us to choose resistance. We have power in this moment. This is our time, our movement, our power. Together we rise. Yes, together we rise. And we're going to keep finding ways in Colorado and beyond to keep doing the next right thing. Go out and do the next right thing.